From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
Jon was overcome with emotion, but at the same time he felt hopeless. What could he do now? He was dead. It's a burden, isn't it? Being the hero, I mean. Jon heard from behind him. He turned sharply behind him, expecting an enemy, only to see a pillar of flame that was twice as large and 5 times wider than Jon. The visage of a male figure made of flames appeared, though his eyes and mouth were completely white. Jon could not make out the features of this man. I don't know how many times I've been called upon by the old gods to save a civilization, let a kingdom into a better future, or save the world. 9, 12. I've lost count. Being the child of prophecy is such a burden. Who are you? Jon asked warily. I've been called many names in my life, my descendant. Bryden, Blood Raven, Rivers, Jaehaerys the Wise, Aegon the Conqueror, Naruto Targaryen the Progenitor, Valerius the Firebringer. Hell, my most infamous one is probably Azor Ahai. But I've always been nostalgic for my original name. Naruto Uzumaki. It was then that the shadows disappeared and Jon truly got a glimpse of Naruto. Spiky blonde hair with blue eyes, wicker marks and a tan complexion walked out of the flames, his lip curled in a smirk. He wore a black long-sleeved undershirt underneath bronze armguards and a bronze breastplate that had ab definition to it. A Spartan helmet with a red horsetail plume was held at his sword. Bronze greaves worn over black breeches and black boots. A sword at his hip. You certainly handle meeting me better than Melisandre would have. Those red priests would prostrate themselves at my feet if they met me in this form. Naruto said. You are. Jon was stunned. Naruto Uzumaki, as I was known in my first life. Though in my second life, I was Azor Ahai. The man who first defeated the White Walkers. Why are they still alive? Why didn't you finish the job? Do you know how many people killed, what they plan to do? Jon demanded. Of course I know, Naruto said back with bite. If I had what I needed back then, they would all already be dead. There was just one problem. I couldn't kill the Night King. To understand what I am getting at, you need to understand something. 8,000 years ago, I came to and united all of Westeros under my banner and fought a 20-year war to end the White Walkers. You know that particular event is the Long Night. We exterminated all the Whites and White Walkers, but during the final battle, I faced down the Night's King and I nearly killed him, but there was one problem. My blade could not kill him. Why? Jon asks. Because he had grown too powerful. By that point, a mere dragonglass dagger, or even a sword enchanted and infused with fire and blood magic could not slay him. I realized that the weapon I needed to kill him had not been invented yet. A blade forged in the flames of a dragon. Valyrian steel. Naruto explained. So, I sacrificed myself, going out in a massive explosion of sunlight to destroy his body and leave him incapable of reforming for 2 millennia. What are you doing? Jon asked as Naruto's appearance shifted. He now looked like a middle-aged man with silver hair and purple eyes, wearing shepherd's clothes and a staff. Don't mind this. This is part of the story. Naruto dismissed. Where was I? Oh yeah, so next time, I was reborn in the plains of Valyria. My name in this form was called Valerius. Some 6,000 years ago, I found dragon eggs and figured out how to hatch and control them. I founded the Valyrian Freehold and developed the magics that they used for almost 6,000 years. Before I died in this form, I went beyond the wall, and found the Night's King, reforming in a cave. Being that he was alone and I was too old and on my last legs, I used powerful sealing magic that was tied to the existence of the Freehold itself. I made sure the bastard would be sealed away in the cave as long as Valyria existed. Naruto's form shifted again, to reveal Naruto's Uzumaki look, except his spiky hair was silver blonde, his blue eyes a vibrant shade of purple, and he wore a pitch-black toga. The next time I was born was as Naruto Targaryen, 730 years ago. I started House Targaryen as a noble house, built Dragonstone with my wife, and fought in the Second Spice War in 700 AC, and was part of the 300 dragon riders that destroyed the Rhoynish people. 400 years ago, the doom came. One of those idiots in the freehold sold Brightroar to the Lannisters and used that money to hire assassins to kill off their political rivals. The problem was those same rivals comprised the core group whose spells kept the 14 flames from erupting. When they died, those giant volcanoes erupted and destroyed the freehold, causing the seals keeping the Night's King contained to fail. With the seals now gone, the little bastard could begin building his army again to destroy all life in the world. I was born again as Aegon Targaryen, Naruto said as his appearance changed again. He truly looked like portraits of the conqueror. Tall, broad-shouldered and powerful in appearance, with purple eyes and short-cut silver-gold hair. He wore Aegon's armor of black scales and his hand rested on Blackfire. His crown was a simple circlet of Valyrian steel, set with big square-cut rubies. Realizing in my absence that the Night's King had started building his army again, I made plans to take him out. I conquered Westeros, and my plan was initially to conquer Dorne relatively quickly, then go north and kill him while his army was weak, but I hit a snag when my wife, Rhaenys, died in the war. It took me a long time to get over losing somebody that I had loved, and by the time I was ready to face the Night's King again, I suffered a stroke and died, leaving my weak and feeble son Aenys to take over. I was reborn right after my death as Aegon as Jaehaerys the Wise. Naruto's appearance changed again to match the old king. Jaehaerys had the purple eyes and silver hair of the Targaryens. He looked wise and dignified even into his old age, with a long white flowing beard reaching to his waist. Even at an old age, Jaehaerys still stood tall and upright. He was dressed in flowing robes of black and gold and wore as a crown a simple band of yellow gold ornamented with 7 gems of different colors, which each stone represented each of the 7 kingdoms. The old god spoke to me and told me that it was not yet time to kill him. After they explained why it was not time to kill him, I established an era of peace in the 7 kingdoms and stabilized the Targaryen rule. Several generations of men and women grew up, never knowing what conflict even was. I helped bring to life as many dragons as possible, because I knew we would need them. House Targaryen's power was nearing its zenith around the time of my death. When I died, I left my kingdom to the man that I knew would continue to keep the peace. I planned to be reborn one more time, and take out the Night King, with an army of dragons, an unchallenged power in House Targaryen and a united Westeros behind me. The old king looked solemnly as his face was filled with regret. It was unfortunate then, that my heir's stubbornness and his refusal to change the succession to his son caused the downfall of nearly everything I had built across 2 lives. The dance of dragons crippled House Targaryen. Almost all the members of my house were dead. Most of the dragons gone and the few that remained slowly died. Though, the true reason for that war and the death of the remaining dragons goes deeper than most realize. But that's not a detail you need to know. I came back again as Brynden Rivers, also called Bloodraven. Naruto's appearance changed again this time, to 25-year-old man with long, straight white hair that rested on his shoulders, a cutout left eye with his right one being blood red, like the color of weirwood sap. A 3-eyed crow rested on his shoulder. He bore a wine-stained birthmark on his right cheek and neck that looked like a raven. Dark Sister was sheathed at his waist and he held a weirwood bow in his hand. His face was a bit gaunt but he had a lean and fit body. He was dressed in light armor with his personal sigil emblazoned upon his tunic. A white dragon with red eyes and claws, breathing red fire on a black field. As you know, I was born to Aegon the Unworthy and my mother, Melissa Blackwood. When my mother was dismissed from court, I went with her back to Raventry Hall. I learned much about my Blackwood family and the magic of the First Men, like warging, greensight, and control over the elements of winter. When I eventually went back to court, I studied the Targaryen magic concerning dragon hatching and taming, though I could not hatch dragons in this body. I was at least able to utilize fire magic, and I became a spymaster as well as skilled with a longsword and bow and arrow. When Queen Nerys was on her deathbed, I comforted her with kind words, as she had always been kind to me at court. It was then she revealed her darkest secret, knowing that I would keep it a secret. Daeron the Good was Aemon the Dragon Knight's son. What? Jon Snow acts in shock. That's right, Jon. Cersei and Jaime Lannister are a modern-day Queen Nerys and Aemon the Dragon Knight. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, I had considered killing Darren, but I realized that would not be a good idea, because in a dragon dream, I realized that the prince that was promised, the body that I would one day inhabit to kill the Night King, would be born of his and Mariah Myrtell's line, so I let it be. I kept my eye on Aegon and Aemon, though. Aegon I hated, not for something so stupid as him being a Bracken and my being a Blackwood, but because he lusted after Shiera, the only woman I loved in this life. He waved his hand and an image appeared in the air. Jon truly understood why Brynden fell for her. With long Targaryen silver gold hair, and a heart-shaped face. Although she had two mismatched eyes, one blue, the other green, this so-called defect seemed to only make her more beautiful. Jon thought Cersei was the most beautiful woman he ever saw when she came to Winterfell, but Shiera's beauty was exponentially greater. Her beauty could almost be considered divine. Think Kate Upton for appearance. Shiera was a great reader, even at an early age, spoke numerous languages, and maintained a large and arcane library. She shared her mother's skill in the magic. Her beauty was such that she had many offers, both of marriage and to be her lover, over the years. Duels were fought over the right to sit beside her, men killed themselves after falling from her favor, poets outdid each other writing songs about her beauty. But she had eyes only for me. I was only one that interested her, I was only who could match her in wits, cunning, and knowledge of the arcane arts. But stories about her say she took many lovers. Jon mentioned, having remembered reading that somewhere. That's a lie told by jealous maesters. She may have flirted to make me jealous, but it was to make our rumbles in bed more interesting. She did it out of fun. Naruto smiled as he continued. Aegon I hated, but I got along rather well with Daemon. He was good man to have as a friend and we were good brothers to each other. He even helped me polish my swordsmanship. I honestly prayed that he wouldn't rebel. 10 years into Darren's reign, Bittersteel convinced Daemon to rebel and claim the Iron Throne. He found our father's journal, which mentioned several times about Darren being the Dragon Knight's son. Daemon finally rebelled and I convinced Darren to send troops to stop him before a civil war could begin, but the men failed. So with heavy heart, because I knew that if Daemon overthrew the Targaryens it mean the prince that was promised would never be born, I threw away my morals. I killed the brother I loved and his two eldest sons with a hail of arrows at the Redgrass field. I served as hand of the king and spymaster to both Aerys I and Maekar I. I was too focused on finishing off the Blackfires and preparing for my eventual showdown with the Night's King, that my attention was too split, and for that, I let the realm suffer as a result. I stopped the second Blackfire rebellion by myself, helped bring the third to close by capturing Aegon and killing Hagen. I planned to have Aegon publicly executed, which would have been the end of them, had Aerys not been a fool and not given him a chance to escape by sending him to the wall. I killed Dany's Blackfire when the Great Council that saw Aegon take the throne occurred, and I was making plans to put Aegon and the rest down, so I could focus on preparing the realm for the White Walkers. But I was arrested by Aegon V. Aegon believed that if I continued do the things that I had done, no one would ever trust the government again. He was right, of course. So, I conceded and went to the wall. In 252 AL, I went beyond the wall with 100 of my most trusted rangers and laid a trap for my ancient enemy, knowing that he would come. And I almost had him. The scene around them showed Brynden dueling the Night's King on top of a snowy cliff. Why would you go north? You would think he would have sent whites after you. Jon said. He could have, Naruto said as the scene changed to show an army of whites that the Night King had, but he hated me, having kept him at bay for so long. He wanted to personally finish me off himself. So he came at me with all 500 White Walkers. Jon saw as Brynden and his 100 men began shooting dragon glass arrows at the undead monsters with extreme precision. Each arrow found a target, destroying White Walkers. The battle continued until the White Walkers and Brynden's men were all dead except for two, while Brynden and the Night's King dueled it out. Eventually, Brynden found an opening and sliced open the Night King's stomach, causing the thing to shriek in agony. The undead monster quickly recovered and followed up with a flurry of attacks that Brynden blocked. Brynden ducked under a wild sweep and cut off the Night King's arm, which disintegrated to particles as it roared. Brynden sliced its left eye open and kicked the first walker down to the ground. He poised his sword to stab and end it all. I meant to end him, Brynden said as the image showed him about to stab the Night's King in the heart. Jon watched with anticipation as Brynden began stabbing the sword downward, only to stop when a White Walker's spear that had been thrown cut through his right hip, causing Brynden to yell in pain as he dropped to the ground. A ways away, the last of the Night King's White Walkers had thrown his spear at Brynden to save its master. That same White Walker was promptly stabbed with a dragonglass dagger, turning to ice and dust as the last of Brynden's men died from his wounds. The Night King growled as he lifted Brynden up by the neck and held him dangling over edge of the cliff. He looked down as he was being choked by the monster. If he fell now he would hopefully die from the fall and warg into some animal so he could carry Darth. Sister back to Aemon. Brynden used the last of his strength to chop off the other arm of the Night King, who roared as he lost his other arm. Brynden fell 1,000 feet before he hit the ground in a loud thud. The fall should have killed me, he said. Jon saw several small green-colored children crawl out nowhere and pull him away with his sword. Jon looked at Brynden, puzzled. The children of the forest. The last few that remain. They saved me, unfortunately. Why do you say that? Jon asked, wondering where the animosity came from. Let me show you, Brynden said as he waved his hand and scene changed. He saw green grass flowing in the wind. He saw the setting sun. He saw small humanoid creatures with gray skin and slit eyes like a cat's. He saw them crowded around a weirwood, so he walked closer to see what they were fussing about. He walked around to see a man tied to the weirwood with his mouth gagged. What the hell am I watching? The reason why I despise the children, Brynden said with anger. The leader of the pack brought out a dragonglass dagger as the pack slowly approached him. They were chanting some queer incantation that Jon could not understand. Once that was finished, the child slowly pushed the dagger into the man's chest. As Jon walked closer to get a better look, the man raised his head as his eyes turned blue. White Walker blue. This must have been the first White Walker, Jon said. No, Jon, Brynden said as the new walker's skin changed to blue, his hair fell out, and horns appeared on his head. This is the Night's King. He was human once. Why would the children create those monsters? Jon wondered. They were at war with the First Men. The First Men eventually beat them back, so in their desperation to protect nature, they played God and created monsters. Monsters that they had no way of controlling. It's one thing to be desperate, it's another to play God. You really do hate them. Jon realized. They created the very reason that has prevented me from resting peacefully in the afterlife with my family. After being reincarnated 5 times in 8,000 years to deal with the same problem, it's going to eventually get on my nerves. And when they saved me, they imprisoned me in that damn heart tree, which stopped me from reincarnating. The scene changed again to a cave. The 3 children of the forest left in the world were gathered around a tree. Brynden was fused to the tree. His skin was white and wrinkled. His muscles were gone, only bony limbs remaining. His face was extremely gaunt. He was covered in tattered rags. He had vines wrapped around him. There was even roots sticking out of his eyeless socket. Those idiots stopped me from reincarnating into what was meant to be my final body, Naruto said, but this time, his form changed again, and Jon suddenly found himself look at himself. Your body was created for me to inhabit, Jon. But thanks to those genocidal tree huggers, I was prevented from doing so, and now thanks to them, humanity is on the brink of extinction. You're dead, and this is the only chance I will get to get a hold of my body. You want my body, Jon stated. It was meant for me. It belongs to me, Naruto said. Make no mistake, Jon, though I would prefer you gave it up willingly, I will take that body by force if you make me. Naruto adopted a more solemn expression and placed his hand on Jon's shoulder and said, You've been fighting ever since you left your home in Winterfell. You killed brothers of the Night's Watch, you've killed free folk, you killed a man you admired and held the woman you loved in your arms as she died. You fought, and you lost. Now it's time rest. Naruto said as a white light appeared behind him, blinding Jon. The intensity seemed to die down, and he could make out 5 figures in the light. They're waiting for you, Jon. Your parents, Ned, Robb, and Ygritte. Go be with them. Jon considered refusing, but honestly, he was tired of fighting. Naruto made a fair point. He had done nothing but fight since he left, and he was utterly miserable. And Naruto had been fighting this battle for a long time. He just hoped he was making the right choice. Don't let them win. Protect what remains of House Stark and the realm. Jon pleaded. I will, Naruto said. With that, Jon walked into the light and left this world to reunite with his family in the afterlife. The light vanished and Naruto was all that was left. Now, time to take my new body, Naruto said, making the eyes of the face on heart tree in front of Jon's pyre glow purple so he could explain it away as divine intervention. Naruto felt his skin warm, his heart begin to beat again, and as his sight was taken by darkness for a moment, he opened eyes to see the flames enveloping him. He was alive again. The Night's King, the Boltons, the Frys, the Ironborn, the Lannisters. He would bring fire and blood to all of them, restore the Targaryen to their rightful place as the kings of Westeros and save the world. Chapter end.